So we're doing another segment on grief and grace, figuring out how to move in faith when your whole world seems to be falling apart. Like, you don't want to go out with friends, you don't want to be around family. Baby, you don't even want to make McDonald's French fries at this point because, like, you sick of it, right? And so one of the things we want to talk about with grief and grace this week is about, like, you don't want to conflate grief and mix it up with where there should have been gratitude, because grief is normal when you experience a significant loss, but it is also abnormal when you count something that you should be grateful for losing, that you trying to act like it was so great, right? And so we've looked at grace two different ways. We've looked at normalizing grace with Jesus weeping with Lazarus, and we also looked at grief was never meant to be a graveyard. It's meant to be a pit stop to get you to where your grace is. Because Jesus said, take me to where his body lay. So now we're going to look at when we have made up as a figment in our imagination that something that we've lost was a significant loss instead of it being an actual blessing. And so we're going to look at Exodus 16 for that. And basically the children of Israel had been wandering around in the wilderness, and they were pissed. They're like, we're sick of this manna. We're sick of you, Moses. We're sick of Aaron. We sick of God. Like, he should have just let us die in Egypt, because at least we had meat to eat. And so what they were doing in this moment was actually making up this story about how great Egypt was, when in fact it was horrible. It is the reason that they prayed and they cried, and that Jesus actually responded to their misery and brought forth the deliverer to set them free, right? It's because he wanted to keep his promises to them. They were never meant to be oppressed, to be beaten, killed, mistreated, in servitude. They were meant to be in the promised land. They were his chosen people. And so we sometimes do that too. Like, we'll pray to God. We know our lives are jacked up. Like, it cannot continue this way. But then when he sends us an instrument of grace to disrupt our lives, we will go back and say, like, oh my God, why'd you take this away from me? Like, I would have just rather been with that man. I'd rather had that job. Where you was getting put on performance improvement plans, and you was tiptoeing around and couldn't even be your authentic selves, and like, you were having to acclimate to practices that went against your core values. So, like, was it really that great? You couldn't even pay your bills. Was it really that great? And so what I want you to understand is that sometimes we will tag something. What I think is important here is that sometimes we'll tag something as grief, as a significant loss, when you wanted to lose it. It was good that you lost it. That's actually a scripture, right? It says, it is good that I suffered, right? So that you are made over your perfecting holiness, right? So you are crying out to God, asking him to change something. And when he sends an instrument of grace to change it, we start acting like it was just this big blessing in our lives, right? And so I want us to pause and say, like, should this be grief? Is this an emotional reaction to a significant loss? Or actually, should this be gratitude? And only you can answer that question. And it may be a combination of both. But we don't want to be like the children of Israel, where they didn't recognize that they should have had gratitude for what God had done and for how he saw them, right? And so, yes, you got to move towards your grace. You got to move towards that gratitude, because it can feel like spiritual warfare, because it is. But you can still find the grace and goodness of God in the mix of it. So just something to think about when your life is falling apart. Like, is this an answer to your prayer? If you've been helped, if you think this can help somebody, share it. Like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, right? Because I'm going to keep making the content as I see fit to. If you share it with somebody, good for you. If you don't, good for you too. Right? I just got to do what God tell me to do, and you will do what he tell you to do. And if the numbers grow, the numbers grow, and if they don't, they don't. All right, see y'all next week, or maybe I won't. Maybe you won't join next week. Whatever. Just find a little bit of gratitude. find a little bit of gratitude. Hold on to the faith that you have. Learn more about God so you can learn more about your original design and what He's created you to do, and then get busy doing it. All right, God bless you.